I am the kind of person who actually stands up for people.
I would stand up for people if they were right and they needed it.
I stand up for my best friends all the time. They had problems with like their boyfriends or girlfriends. I would always stand up for them.
I believe that, people should not be stepped over by, other people.
Whether it's family or a good friend, especially, I'll stand up for someone.
If I see someone that's being treated the wrong way, I like to stand up for others and, basically make sure that people understand that it's not right to put other people down.
I feel like I'm definitely one of those kind of people that stands up for others. It might be a little intimidating and scary at first, but you need to know that you're just doing what's fair and what's right.
There was a time where my brother was being bullied. And I helped him out, and I told kids to leave him alone.
There was a time where kids around the block was trying to bully my little brother, and I was not having that because I love my little brother, and I would stand up for any of my friends.
When I was in 8th grade, and there was a 7th grade boy, he was getting bullied. Like, he was actually getting pushed into the lockers and everything. And I actually was like, no, you're not gonna like sit there and like push him against the lockers just because he doesn't look like you guys.
A kid is being bullied in the hallway at school.
There are no teachers around, and you and your friends are walking towards them.
What do you do?
What would Jesus do?
Here are a few other scenarios. Maybe someone is getting teased for a stutter.
An old man clearly needs help with his groceries, and the store clerk is ignoring him.
You hear a rumor that kids plan to graffiti the side of the church in your town.
What do you do?
What would Jesus do?
Would you stand up for them?
Or would you ignore them?
Standing up for others. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Kenny.
And this is RealfaithTV.
Most of the teens on the street said that they were the type of person who would stand up for others.
We'll hear from them again a little later in the show, as well as meet our spotlight guest Colleen, who also says she stands up for others.
But first, let's meet our studio guests and find out if they're the type of people who stand up for others.
Okay, they are Justin, Allie, Rachel, Tiffany, Allie, Juliana, and Alex.
So, are you the type of person who stands up for others?
Like, I try to. A lot of times it's really difficult, though, because you wonder what other people are going to think of you.
If somebody was physically getting bullied, I would want to help, but since I'm small and tiny, I feel very intimidated by that person. I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, like right now, thinking about it, I would definitely help somebody if they need my help, but like when the situation arrives, it might be like a different story.
When I used to do Girl Scouts, there was this girl in our troop. Everybody just left her alone. So when we went camping, I decided to share a tent with her, and we actually had a really good time. I think that they were just kind of scared of her because she was different and she wasn't like everyone else. And I think that we judge people so quickly and we're kind of scared to give them a chance, and we really got to stand up for them and get to know them.
I would definitely stand up for someone because it's just the right thing to do. And there was one time where my other friend, she was saying mean things to her. So like I looked at her and I was like, hey, like stop, like you did the same thing, and like it's not right to like beat up on her. She kind of like didn't say anything back. Like I could tell that like she was like taken back that I actually said something to her.
Our spotlight guest Colleen makes it a habit to stand up for others.
Let's meet her now.
I stood up for someone else in many instances. I understand before I stand up for somebody there may be repercussions, but I don't care. It's more important to me to stand up for that person, because in the long run, people won't remember that they made fun of me for standing up for someone, but the person who I helped will always remember that they were someone nice, and happiness spreads, so if I help someone, they can help someone else. There's never been any major effects of me standing up for somebody else, because what I say, I make the other person realize what they're doing is wrong by doing it in a nice way. So there may be some jokes for that last a couple days, but the turnout is always greater than anything else. It's such a great feeling when I stand up for somebody else. I know that I'm helping them out both now and in the long run. There's always those times where I don't stand up for people. Of course, if it's a big thing, I'll always do it. But if it's like a little joke that someone says, sometimes I think, oh, it's not worth it to stand up to them, I don't have time. After I think that, I go home and I just feel so guilty, and I think, what could have happened if I stood up for them? Maybe they'd be a little bit happier that day. If you ignore someone who's being bullied, they feel even less about themselves. They may not think that they're as good as anybody else, and they probably will get down on themselves, and I never want to see that happen, because God teaches us that each of us should be treated equally. We should always help someone out so we can fulfill what God wants us to think about ourselves, that we're all great.
There are many examples of secular and religious leaders who were willing to stand up for others.
It wasn't easy. People hated them for it.
However, they did it anyway, and in doing so, created great change in the world.
Abraham Lincoln is credited with confronting slavery, recognizing it as a grave injustice.
He was so convicted in the truth of the dignity of each person, regardless of skin color,
that he was willing to lead a war to bring justice and greater equality within the United States. We can do this on a smaller scale in our everyday life.
Next, Spotlight guest Colleen shares with us a few times she has stood up for others.
And how great it made her feel to do it.
Let's check it out.
When you see little things happen, like little things being said, I always stand up for that person because I put myself in their shoes and ask myself, like, when I want someone to stand up for me. In 6th grade, there was a girl who sat in the corner of the classroom all the time, didn't have any friends really. I felt really bad for her, and I know I've been taught in my CCD classes in church and through my family's morals, if you see someone having a hard time or being made fun of, never exclude them. So I went up to her, and we're still friends today. She's really blossomed. Also, in 4th grade, there was a girl, she got made fun of a lot and bullied. Every lunch I sat with her. We're still best friends today. She's a great girl. And more recently, one of my younger friends, people make fun of her a lot because she's not really into a lot of things other people are into. It just breaks my heart every time I see it happen. So being the older person, I know I should speak up for her, and I do that every time someone says something to her. I try not to do it while she's there, so she doesn't get embarrassed, because I know she would. So since I'm older than them, I try to put some humor into it and be like a role model to them more and say, you guys, you know, I would never do that. It's not cool to do that in high school. If you stand up for someone, their dignity will like skyrocket. They will feel better about themselves, and in turn, they may even help someone else. People I have helped help other people. So it's just great to see the effects of helping people.
Can you share any stories where you have stood up for others, or maybe when others have stood up for you?
Well, when I was really little, there was this kid picking on me on the playground, and my brother, out of all people, came over and he was like, "That's my little sister, knock it off, what are you doing?" And then the kid turned and he was making fun of my brother then. And then I was like, wait, that's not right. You don't just like do that, stop making fun of him. And I ran over to a teacher, and the teacher came over and, talked to us, and we got it all settled out.
When I was around like 6 or 7, everybody on the block was at least 2 or 3 years older than me. At that time, my brother had like just lost half of his leg, so people would like start to make fun of him and whatnot. And I got like really upset one day and like ran home crying. My mom's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like people are making fun of him. And so like she actually printed out a picture of his leg and like took it over to like the people who were like making fun of him, and she just like stood up for him. She stood up for me, because not only were they making fun of him, but they were making fun of me because I was younger. So he's in the Army, and they were like doing something with the tanks, and then something went wrong, kind of blew up. Pieces of metal got like stuck like in his leg, and they had to like take half of it off, and now he has like a prosthetic leg.
When I was in 7th and 8th grade, I was made fun of my hair. Like, people always said, "Don't touch Juliana's hair, things live in it." Someone actually almost made me cry because I just didn't know how to deal with that sort of situation. But then in 8th grade, I started standing up for myself, and my friends also stood up for me. And one kid goes, "Juliana, every time I close my eyes, I see your hair." And then I'm like, "Well, that means you're thinking about me." And then he just shut up after that. He was like, "Okay," and then he just turned away, and I walked away, and in my head I'm like, "Yeah."
Last year, there were these girls that were picking on me, and they kept bothering me the whole entire year. They would always say stuff about me to other people, and I would find out and hear about it. There was this girl that I was friends with, and she was like, "I'm so sick of them bullying you." So one day in lunch, she went up to their lunch table, and she told them to stop bullying me and picking on me, because I didn't have the strength to tell them myself.
Senior year, there was this one kid that always kind of followed me and my group of friends around, and he was always the butt of our jokes, kind of. We always made fun of him and picked on him and kind of bullied him, really. And one of our friends that was in the group came up to me one day, and he was friends with the kid, more so than I was. And he said, "Man, I know what he does when he goes home. I know how he feels about himself. I know how low you guys can make him feel." Once I heard that, I felt like I can't bring someone down to that kind of level. Who am I to make fun of someone like that, and it hurts me now even to like think about it. Because of that situation, I find myself not doing that anymore. I try and stand up for people who are being bullied and try and do what's right. According to the documentary film, The Bully Project,
more than 5 million American kids will be bullied this year in the United States.
An estimated 160,000 children are absent from school each day because they're afraid of being bullied.
And an article posted on the United Methodist Church Baltimore Washington Conference website states that
those who work with young people believe cell phones and the internet exacerbate bullying.
But no matter what its form, bullying can devastate. And that devastation can last for years or begin to feel inescapable.
Are young people more or less inclined to stand up for each other?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
I think people today are less inclined to stand up for others, mainly because it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world out there. So if you can't stand up for yourself, who's going to stand up for you?
And like they don't want to help out, they just want to see somebody fight or do something wrong. They're afraid of what other people will say to them if they stand up for other people.
I think people are less inclined to stand up for others because they're afraid of what other people think.
There's this me-first attitude that's very prevalent in society.
Some of them, they'll help you out if they're your friend, but if they're not your friend, they're probably not going to help you out.
I think they're more inclined to stand up for others because it's getting rough out here, you know?
Share a time when you didn't stand up for someone. How did this make you feel?
I mean, I've seen kids in my hallway who are being bullied, and sometimes you don't want to get involved because it's not your situation.
When I saw a fight about to happen, I didn't stand up for the person that was gonna like get beat up or whatever. I would just watch it.
I know that I could have done something. I definitely am full of regret and guilt.
We're at the beach, and I know there's this guy that was kind of all over my sister, and I was younger, and I was kind of afraid to say anything to him. I just felt more so embarrassed at myself that I didn't really help her out.
Anytime that I didn't stand up for someone, I really just thought like, wow, what am I doing? Why in the world, didn't I get involved? What was I thinking that I just let something happen to someone?
I think media has a big impact on that because when we watch movies, always the cool kids kind of are the ones beating up on the kid, and I think everybody kind of wants that image, and everyone's afraid that people will make fun of them because they kind of intervened in the situation.
If you're not afraid of judgment from other people, it can be really easy to stand up, but like if you're afraid that people are gonna judge you, then you're probably gonna be less likely to stand up.
On one of my sports teams, there's like 7 of us who are really close friends. Like we've been together since the beginning of freshman year. And when I'm like with 3 of them or something, I would hear them talking about another one of our friends, like bad about them, like making fun of them. And I'm like, aren't we all friends? One minute you're acting like their friend, and the next minute you're making fun of them behind their back. And it really confuses me, but I don't want to raise any problems, so I kind of like shy away from the situation and not try to fix it.
On one of my sports teams, there was a time when we were at a party and, only a few of us were there. And they were talking and they were like, oh my gosh, this girl, all the horrible things that they think that she does. I didn't stand up for her because, she wasn't there and I didn't really know her that well. It was kind of hard because I didn't want them to think less of me. I kind of wish I did stand up for her.
Yeah, I feel like our generation's really focused on me. Like, you can stand up for yourself and you could be concerned about yourself, but you got to balance it. You got to balance it by being concerned about your friends and your family. You can't be so self-centered.
Exactly. I feel like everyone in our generation is more, like you said, so concerned about their self, and they use that as an excuse not to stand up for other people. Like, well, I don't want to get involved. It's not my business.
Standing up for others can be difficult.
There are those throughout history who have died for standing up for others, like Archbishop Oscar Romero of El Salvador.
He was murdered on March 25th, 1980, while celebrating Mass.
He was killed because he used his position as Catholic bishop to speak out for the oppressed and the vulnerable.
He was a voice for the voiceless by challenging the unjust government of his country.
Next, Colleen tells us that she has found that the positive effects for standing up for others has always outweighed the negative effects she receives.
She also tells us about how important it is to stand up for the voiceless.
If you try to speak up, the outcome may not always be what you wanted, but it inspires other people to speak up too. The positive effects of helping someone are, I guarantee, always going to be greater than the negative effects. It's important to stand up for people who don't even have voices. A major topic right now that's very controversial is abortion. We, as Catholics, don't believe in it because even at the moment of conception, you're considered a person, and it's not allowed to murder anybody, so why murder a baby? A baby doesn't have a voice, so it's important for us who have voices to speak up for them and to spread the word that it's wrong to have abortions. It's definitely difficult to stand up for others sometimes. If you're the only person standing up to someone, you may not have that strength in number feeling that groups can sometimes have. If you're the only person speaking out against the cause, that may be difficult as well. In my school, they may think that I'm like a goody two-shoe because I speak up against people being bullied or even teachers being bullied by students. But I just brush it off and say that that's what I believe in. So if you don't, well, that's your problem.
Being a voice for the voiceless doesn't always mean using your actual voice.
There are many ways we can demonstrate standing up for others.
Next, the teens on the street share with us ways we can stand up for others without using words.
And who their role models are when it comes to standing up for others.
Let's check it out.
If you want to stand up for someone without just speaking word, just your actions.
The action, or just the thought, just thinking about it.
We can try to like pull somebody away if something's about to happen.
Telling someone else to help another person.
Including them in the kind of daily activities that you go through in your life, just accepting people for who they are.
Set up organizations where you build other people's self-confidence.
In my school, there's Safe Haven, and it's a club for, people who feel like they're not wanted in the school or in the community. I go to support my friends who feel unwanted or who are going through things. So yeah, that's a way to stand up for someone.
Are there any famous people or people close to you who have set an example in standing up for others? Explain.
Yeah, I guess my mom, she always stood up for like her rights and stood up for everybody else's rights. My mother is very close to me and she stood up for me and a lot of people.
And my mother has though, she's like my biggest role model, she's my hero. She's always the one kind of there backing me and standing up for me.
Anyone in my family will stand up for any innocent people. They have really made a big impact on my life because they will stand up for someone they don't even know.
My mom, she's just such a strong-willed woman and she just doesn't want to be treated disrespectfully, neither does she want anyone else that she loves to be treated in such a way.
One of my great friends, Andrew Strusik, he always taught me a lot about leadership and that, you have to have certain principles. And then you have to stand up for what you believe in. It's important.
My grandpa, he moved to this country because of religious intolerance, because he's Jewish. A lot of kids would make fun of him because he was from Germany and he didn't speak the language yet. He just had all these great stories about how he stood up for himself in school and stuff like that and what he believed in, and he taught me so much.
My mom is a really, really big role model for me on standing up for others. Whenever somebody's mean to them, even like sometimes family members are mean to other family members, and my mom just like stands up for those people. My mom's just like a person who would stand up for absolutely anyone.
Yeah, like I totally agree with you. Like my mom is my biggest role model because like she always tells me to stand up for myself, but there was a time when like I couldn't stand up for myself because like I was scared to like face my bullies and like say anything to them. So my mom like called the school and told them about what they were doing to me, and then the school made them like stop saying stuff to me and like saying stuff to other people, and then it just like got resolved. So
my best friend Mariella, she's like one of my biggest role models because she just does like the right thing and she stands up for anybody who needs confidence, stuff like that, and she does the right thing because it is right, and that's what my mom always tells me to do, not because you get something out of it.
The way that I stand up for others is in my school, I have this group, and it's a public school. It's called Respect Life, and it's all about respecting everyone's life from conception to natural death. We put up like posters and we tell people about it, and hopefully they come to the meetings. And a lot of the times people like ask us about like, oh, you're part of that group? Like you're all like against abortion and everything, and we get like made fun of for that. And then people then from the group also have to stand up for us.
Yeah, like as far as role models go, I'd have to say my dad's probably biggest role model. He's a retired police detective. Being a police officer, your job is to go out, help the defenseless, bring justice.
I know for me, it would probably have to be my sister because she stands up for me. She stands up for anyone. I think she's such an amazing person and she inspires me just to like stand up for others and stand up for myself.
A big role model for me is a saint I learned about in school, Saint John Baptist de La Salle. And during his life in France, the poor were like ignored, they were thought of as a nuisance, they didn't have an education, and him and his friends really didn't agree with that, and they thought that if they were given a chance, they could make a real big difference. So they set up a chain of schools for the poor that were free, and they just really gave them a chance at a better life.
Yeah, I know for me, I don't really have a specific role model, but I think that anyone who's willing to stand up for someone and to go and confront a bully and say, stop picking on this girl, she's my friend, I think anyone who's able to do that really has my respect and has my attention, because it's hard. We all know that it's really hard to go and stand up for what's right, but once you do it and when you see someone else do it, you have a higher level of respect for them.
Of course, Jesus is our ultimate role model for standing up for others.
Jesus gave us many examples of how he might stand up for others, with the ultimate example of us dying on the cross for us.
Let's see what the teens on the street shared about how their faith teaches them on this topic.
Let's check it out.
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Because if you really love yourself, you will love your neighbor. You wouldn't let nothing bad happen to your neighbor.
No one should be disrespected because everybody is equal, so you have to treat everybody the same way you want to be treated.
Jesus always stands up for people, and you know, all you have to do is say, God, have mercy on them.
I think that Christians need to stand up for when they're being put down, when other people are putting them down, because if you don't stand up for what you believe in, it's just like Malcolm X said, you fall for anything, and that's not, obviously he had his own different religious beliefs, but the principles are all the same.
I was brought up that way as a Christian child, in a Christian household, just to be fair to everybody, to be nice, and don't let anyone get disrespected. Always respect yourself, respect others, and respect your environment.
Everyone should stand up for everyone, and they shouldn't be afraid of what other people think.
Jesus stood up for us. He died on Calvary for us, so we can get to where we are now. So yes, I believe that now we should stand up for each other.
There are also so many stories in the Bible that demonstrate Jesus, the apostles, and prophets standing up for others.
Next, Colleen shares with us a few Bible stories that come to mind when she needs some inspiration to stand up for others.
The story in the Bible where the woman was accused of adultery. The men were throwing rocks at her. Jesus said, "For the man who has never sinned, may he be the first one to cast a stone." Immediately, people started putting down their stones because they realized we're all sinners. So Jesus, even though the woman was thought down upon by the other men, he stood up for her, and the men stopped doing that. Another story from the Bible is the story of the man who was on a hike, and there were robbers who beat him and took all his possessions. One by one, people walked by and ignored him. But then there was one man, and he took him to a house and took care of all his wounds. This man that helped the beaten man never said anything outright. He acted, so it shows that sometimes actions are bigger than words. And Jesus asked which man was a neighbor to the beaten man, and the answer was the person who helped him. We're taught that we're all neighbors, we're all brothers and sisters, and brothers, sisters, and neighbors should all help each other no matter how difficult the situation is. As Catholics, we should defend and promote the dignity of others, because that's what we're taught to do. We're told to treat everybody as you would like to be treated. I've been told that since I was really little, and I've kept that to heart my whole life. Jesus helps to defend and promote the dignity of others. He never cared what anybody else thought was right or wrong. Prayers help me a lot in standing up for others. I always pray that I gain the courage to stand up for others, because I know that I have the ability to be strong and help others.
I feel that my faith helps me stand up for others because I know that it's not just me who would be standing up for them. I know that I have a whole community of people that would back me up on what I believe in. And for standing up for another person, I know that Jesus would do that. Like when I had to be a friend to this kid who was sitting alone at lunch, he didn't really have any friends, he was new to the school, and people talked about me, how I was sitting with the weird kid or whatever. And someone came up to me, they confronted me, they said, why do you do that? Who are you to sit with someone weird like that? You're pretty normal. And I was just like, wait, that's not right. Jesus would sit with this person. And they kind of backed down, whoa, you're right.
I really like the Bible story about the tax collector Zacchaeus. Tax collectors were kind of looked down upon because they were extremely wealthy and they weren't using their money for good deeds. They kind of lived in a mansion and had everything that they wanted. And Jesus comes up to him and says, Come with me, because we'll have dinner together. And everyone's kind of taken aback, whoa, you don't just invite a tax collector to dinner, this was a huge thing. And I think that that's kind of a role model for us when we see someone who's kind of let down, hey, why don't you come to the movies with us, or why don't you come kick a soccer ball with us? Just include everyone, because everyone has feelings.
Yeah, as far as standing up for yourself goes, a real role model for me is St. Maria Goretti. There was this man, Alessandro. One day when two of them were alone in the house, He threatened to kill her if she didn't like give in to his demand. She had the respect for herself to say no, and because she knew that it wasn't right, and you know, she stood up for herself. She ended up being murdered by Alessandro. The fact that, you know, she stood up for herself and, you know, she didn't give in to someone, you know, even to the point of death was, you know, very inspiring. Luke chapter 17 tells us, "Take heed to yourselves.
If your brother sins against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him."
This is a verse about standing up for others.
If someone is doing something that is against the dignity of another person or is profaning God in some way, we are not just called to be peacemakers.
It is our duty to rebuke them, as the verse says.
Of course, we need to do this in a loving, calm manner.
We can't come off as arrogant, but we must simply speak the truth, help those who need help, and honor God.
In standing up for others, we too follow Jesus' actions.
Even if it is challenging to stand up and stand out, we know our faith can give us the courage to stand tall.
So how do you stand up for others?
Tell us your story.
Contact us at RealfaithTV.com.
Or share your thoughts with us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you today with this prayer.
Jesus, help me stand up for your people and for you when there is teasing, bullying, and mocking.
Give me the courage to help the vulnerable and needy.
Fill my heart with a sense of justice and let me always uphold the dignity of every person I come into contact with.
Take away any fear associated with standing up for others.
And instead, fill me with the words to speak and actions to act so I may follow your example.
We ask all this through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV.
God bless.